Jerry Burdick here. I'm ecstatic to be sharing with you today my Roscoe Guitars Century 3006J fretless bass. There's a lot that goes into that model name, and we'll break down everything in a second, but I just want to start off by saying I'm absolutely in love with this instrument. Many thanks to Gard Lewis, the GM at Roscoe Guitars, because he had an awful lot to do with not only the aesthetics but really the wood choices in this bass. And the reason being is a while back with my red Century jazz bass, I kind of pulled a practical joke on Gard. So his playful comeback to me was, when I ordered this bass, he wasn't going to let me see it until it was done. And of course that carried behind it my inherent trust with Roscoe Guitars in general, and certainly with Gard in specific, as I've been fortunate to come to know him very well over the past couple of years. He chose the top, and geez, I don't know if there's a sexier top on the planet. And while I did spec a mahogany back for the bass, he chose the particular piece of wood that was used. And the really important, the key point there is the fact that because I wanted to go with the trans blue finish, he had to pick woods that would work with that color without looking muddy or murky underneath that finish. So at that, let me take a step back and I'll tell you a little bit more about the bass itself. This is Roscoe's Century body style. It's a 3006, meaning it's a 6-string bass, and it is a fretless bass. And it also uses the Bartolini 57J pickups, but you can tell they're not in the standard Fender 60s placement. We'll talk about that in a second too. My goals with this bass, really kind of two things I knew up front when Roscoe started offering these pickups. I knew that I was going to have a jazz bass with a Fender touch, and that is certainly accomplished with my Candy Apple Red Century bass. But I also knew, just because I love these pickups so much, I knew I was going to have a fretless somewhere down the road too. And this is the culmination of that. My specifics, what I really wanted out of this bass, were the choices I made in the woods, and that is a mahogany body, which you can see here. I went with Roscoe's standard neck, which I've always just been absolutely in love with, which is maple, purple heart, and maple. I went with Roscoe's diamond wood fingerboard, which is a birch impregnated wood that with some sort of black magic, it all comes together and creates a very hard wood that is perfect for an electric fretless board. Where I went a little bit more customized was with the pickup placement, and I've always been a fan of Joe Zahn's work, and in particular his Sauna Special model with the pickup placement slanted toward the bridge. It's, with the pickups very close together. Guilty confession, I think it just looks really cool, but also I absolutely love what it does to the sound of the bass. However, in my experience with those basses, with the composite necks and the fingerboard that Joe uses, the bass is almost a little bit too harsh for my taste, because I've got kind of a hack-handed, fumble thumbs approach, and I can sort of make things go overboard quickly. So what I wanted in a Roscoe bass was really, aside from the traditional Roscoe flavor, I wanted to go with mahogany body for some additional lows and a little booty, if you will, the low mids that wood seems to really reinforce. And I wanted to make that with a maple top to give it some nice focus and a bit of attack to go along with the diamond wood fingerboard. And then I wanted the Sauna Special placement that Keith and Gard and the folks were very kind to oblige me with on that. So in my mind, I kind of get the absolute perfect ideal fretless, the fretless to end all fretlesses in my quest for that kind of tone. And in that regard, Roscoe certainly hit yet another home run. This bass is everything I'd hoped it would be sonically, and that was really my only concern, because I knew going in, being a longtime veteran playing Roscoe basses through the years, I knew I was going to love the playability, and I knew I was going to love the look, even though I didn't necessarily have a say in the look. I trusted Gard for this top that is probably hypnotizing you folks as much as it does me. So I'm absolutely just ecstatic with the bass. It is truly a Roscoe, meaning that it looks beautiful, it plays beautifully, and it sounds like $1 million. As we started out this little video fest, I shared a kind of an E minor riff, and that was with everything flat and centered. And before I go into a couple more tonal options, I will play that again to kind of give us a reference point. So here's that riff with everything flat and centered on the bass. My favorite tone, though, is, and as I knew going in from just having the spec in mind, would be favoring the bridge pickup. So I'm going to bias that a little bit toward the bridge, maybe a little less than halfway between a full bias and the centered indent. And then I'm going to backfill some of those lows. I'm going to boost the low mids on the Bartolini NTMB preamp here, the 250 hertz mids. So I'm going to boost those a little bit to bring back that low end that we lose when we bias the bridge pickup. And here is kind of my take on what is absolutely a perfect fretless tone. I could play that for forever and ever and ever. And the beautiful thing, it may sound in a solo environment, may sound a little bit harsh, a little bit too bitey in the upper mids, but when you play that in a mix with other instruments in there, it has the absolute perfect amount of cut and a nice little bit of bite, and it chases after you. It is just really an addicting flavor of tone, and certainly my go-to on this bass. But that said, the variety is still in there, and I really enjoy biasing the front pickup as well. It's a little bit brighter than a traditional P bass sound, as you would imagine with the pickup placement, and it's very, very usable, particularly for fretless. It might be a little bit too much on a fretted bass, but again, this placement just speaks so beautifully on a fretless. So here's that same riff with a bias, kind of a mid to heavy bias toward the neck pickup. There we have it. I'll bring everything back a little bit, maybe bias the bridge pickup just a little bit to get my favorite tone as we take things out here. But I would just want to extend another very, very grateful word of thanks to Roscoe, to Guard, to Keith. These folks just make absolutely stunning instruments that, again, they complete the trifecta. They look beautiful, they play like butter, and they sound even better. So another Grand Slam home run to mix my sports analogies here for Roscoe guitars. Thank you very much. This is my Century 3006 J Fretless.